This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month. So Russ, 23 miles from where we live right now is what is considered the most haunted house in America. Not only was it the scene of an incredibly gruesome crime, but it was also the scene of a haunting that terrified an entire family. Now, I know that you don't believe in anything paranormal, and you're probably not going to believe this story, but I'm going to tell you the case of the Amityville Horror.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wife of Crime, my true crime show, where I let Jess tell me a story every week.
I put in so much more work than you do. Like, so much more work.
Yeah, the show would be too serious without me.
Some people like serious, especially when you're talking about murders.
There's a little comedy in everything.
I guess, if you can find the comedy in things. Well, today's story is going to be very interesting to hear your reaction to this story because it deals with not only a murder, but also some supernatural stuff, which I know you don't believe in at all. So I'm wondering if you're going to believe this story at all, the supernatural part of it.
Probably not.
Well, I'm going to ask you my classic question. Have you ever seen the movie Amityville Horror?
Maybe. I don't know. I have a bad memory. I've seen parts of it. Maybe if I know after this she's going to try to get me to watch it. And
I don't know. I'm not going to get you to watch it. You know why? Because I watched it today and then I researched this whole case and I found out that the movie it's really exaggerated, and the things that happen in the movie, a lot of it didn't happen.
You don't say.
In the real story.
Movies aren't real?
No, but it makes the story, when you watch the movie after I tell you all of this, you'll see little bits and pieces in the movie, but it was so exaggerated in the film.
Movies are just inspired by true events. So that doesn't mean that it's a true story.
I know, but some of the paranormal parts of the movie, it just was like so exaggerated. So anyway, I'm going to tell you the story today of Amityville Horror, but I'm going to tell you the true story. And there are two parts, and it's kind of complex because there was an actual murder that happened, multiple murders that happened actually, at this house. And then a year later, a family moved in and they were haunted. And then that became its whole own separate story that then became a book and then movies and a whole other thing. So I'm going to tell you the story of the murders and the haunting story all in one episode.
Wow, it's like a buy one, get one free.
It's like a buy one, get one free. All right. 23 miles away from us is 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Long Island. And it is
Room
known...
112, where the players dwell.
It is known as the most haunted house in America. It not only was the location for a gruesome murder spree, but a year later, like I mentioned before, it was also the place where the Lutz family was supposedly harassed by malevolent spirits. A lot of questions and controversy still surround this house. The Lutz family moved into the house, but only stayed for 28 days, okay, after they bought it.
I wonder if that inspired the movie 28 Days Later.
No, that movie
All
was
the
about
movies are about
zombies.
this.
No, that movie was about zombies. But the Lutz family, they moved into this house, only stayed for 28 days before running away from the house, fearing for their lives. They left all their possessions, all of their clothes, everything there, and just run and never went back.
A family full of people with schizophrenia, probably.
Well, no. I'm going to go on and tell you this story. Their story later became the best-selling book, and in 1979, the Amityville Horror film came out, the first one. The remake with Ryan Reynolds came out in 2005, but like I said earlier, what I learned from my research is that the story is definitely stretched and exaggerated in the films. So I'm going to tell you about the DeFeo family, which is the family that the murder happened. Like the DeFeos were the ones that
I know
were
a little
murdered.
bit about that.
I'm going to tell you about the Lutz family and all about the house at 112 Ocean Avenue. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to start with the DeFeo family because that's the family that was murdered. There were 7 of them. 2 parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, and 5 children. Ronnie Jr., who was 23, Dawn, who was 18, Allison, who was 13, Mark, who was 12, and John Matthew, who was only 9 years old, sadly.
Damn.
They moved into this house in 1965, and they were a typical Italian Catholic family. Ronald Sr. ruled with an iron fist, and some would even say that he was abusive, and a lot of the kids in the neighborhood were really afraid of him. They would come over and play with the other kids, and they would see him beat on his wife, and he just was kind of known as a strict jerk. The family owned a car dealership. They sold Buicks. And
Old people's favorite cars.
yeah, it is old people's favorite car.
And
My grandmother has a Buick.
They only sell them in the champagne color that all the old people have them in.
So funny. So Ronald Sr., he had also kind of been known to dibble-dabble in some illegal activity, drugs, money, things like that. But it was very small amount. But people knew that he was kind of affiliated in some ways with some mob activity. On November 13th, 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were shot as they lay in their beds asleep. All the family members were laying face down and shot in the back or back of the head.
Wait, do they sleep on their stomach?
Well, all of them were laying face down, so I guess they were all stomach sleepers. And they were shot in the head or back with a 35 caliber, a 35 caliber level action Marlin rifle. There were 9 shots in total, and the medical examiner estimated the time of death to be around 3 a.m. in the morning. Autopsy report confirmed that none of the family was drugged, okay? And none of the bodies were moved after their death. So none of the bodies had been moved post-mortem.
So they didn't roll them over from their back to their stomach. They were on their stomach already.
So let's pause.
Maybe someone said, put your face down.
Exactly. This is what's weird about this case. No one moved. Okay. This house has 6 bedrooms and it is 3 stories high. All the bedrooms
It's a big house.
it's a very large house. All the bedrooms were on different levels. So
Wait, that doesn't make sense.
Well, like the master bedroom.
If there's 6 bedrooms and 3 floors, all the bedrooms can't be on different levels. They have to be 6 floors.
Let me finish. I was about to tell you. The master bedroom and one of the bedrooms, I think the boys' bedroom, was on one level. On the second level was the little girl's bedroom and Ronnie Jr.'s bedroom. On the third level was another 2 bedrooms. So there were 2 bedrooms on each level. So the point I'm trying to make is there are 9 very loud rifle gunshots
No one got up.
No one got up. No one ran. No one even peeked out of their room. Everyone just stayed asleep.
Why don't...
Facing down. And it takes time to like run up the stairs and shoot the next person, and run up the stairs and shoot the next person. So it's not like the shots
And they weren't drugged.
They weren't drugged.
Huh.
So it's not like the shots were like back to back to back, because he had to run different levels in the house.
Who's he?
I'm about to tell you who he is. So that was a very interesting part of this whole thing. Also, another part that's very interesting is that a Marlin rifle is very loud. And police tested the sound because they wanted to see like why no one heard these shots. Neighbors didn't wake up. It's a very quiet neighborhood at 3 a.m. And the only thing people heard was dogs barking. So the dogs obviously heard the shots, but no one else heard it. And when police later tested how far you can hear a Marlin rifle, you could have heard the shots 5 blocks away.
Yeah, but it won't be loud 5 blocks away. No one would know what that is.
I guess.
Maybe even if you're in a house and the house next door had someone shoot in the house, all the windows are closed, all the doors are closed, it's not going to be clear.
Yeah, that's true. So at 6:30 p.m. later that day, Ronnie DeFeo ran into a local bar called Henry's. And he ran in the bar and he screamed, "You've got to help me. I think my mom and dad have been shot." So a group of patrons jumped in their cars and sped to the house. And they found the bodies of his parents and all of his siblings.
Wow.
Okay. And they immediately called Suffolk County Police. At first, police took Ronnie into protective custody because they were really worried about him and his well-being, and they thought this could have been a mob hit. Ronnie also mentioned a mob associate named Louis Fellini, and kind of alluded to the fact that Louis Fellini could have carried out this crime. However,
I know who Louis Fellini is.
You do?
Yeah, his nickname in Long Island was Fellini the Weenie.
Are you telling the truth?
Yeah, because one time he used to kick these kids in the weenie.
You're so full of crap.
I'm lying.
Yeah, like I don't even know where that came from.
I don't know. It rhymed with weenie.
Better watch out. Don't be talking about these mobsters around here. They're probably still alive and they're going to come after you. You better be nice about them on the podcast. So Louis Fellini,
the weenie.
He actually had a rock solid alibi because he was out of state. So once police started questioning Ronnie DeFeo Jr. about this murder, his story started getting convoluted and breaking up. And eventually the next day, Ronnie DeFeo confessed to carrying out these killings himself. And he said, "Once I started, I couldn't stop. It all happened so fast." He was officially named the suspect and charged with 6 counts of murder.
You don't need to be named a suspect if you said you did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, but that's whatever. I messed up the way I told the story.
Hashtag just messed up.
Shut up. So his story was that he woke up at 3:15 a.m. and for an unknown reason grabbed his rifle and wiped out his entire family. And he maintained this story for a while. He didn't have a reason. He didn't have a motive. He just said he just woke up and decided to wipe everybody out and kill his entire family. A lot of speculation started happening.
I'm not having kids.
Neighbor.
How are you supposed to sleep with these little terrors running around in your house?
So true. Imagine like your kid just wakes up and decides to kill his entire family. It's crazy.
Yeah, Biggie's never gonna do that. Biggie's my dog.
Yeah, I know.
He don't got fingers. He can't even use a gun.
It's true. Biggie, I mean, I guess Biggie could technically like eat your face off in the middle of the night if he decided to just wake up and
yeah, but that's
eat you.
That's not instant death. You could fight back.
You could fight back.
And Biggie would never do that.
He wouldn't. He's the sweetest. So a lot of speculation started happening from neighbors and media and etc. And his defense attorney eventually, like, you know, when preparing for the trial, his defense attorney got him psychologically analyzed and evaluated. And a psychiatrist did not believe that Ronnie DeFeo understood the extent of his actions. So his defense attorneys decided to go with the insanity plea. In his original testimony during the trial, Ronnie DeFeo claims that this is now his new story, okay? This is the story he told at trial. He claims that he was watching a war movie, and while watching this movie, he fell asleep in front of the TV. And then at 3:15 a.m., he woke up and he saw a black hooded being walk up to him and hand him a rifle. And he knew, when this being handed him the rifle, he knew that he had to go kill everyone.
He had to.
That's what he says in his testimony, that this being, when he woke up, I forgot to tell you this. He woke up, and when he woke up, he heard whispers, and then the being walked up to him, handed him the rifle, and in his mind, it's like he knew he was supposed to go and kill his entire family.
There's a lot of kooks out there.
That's what he said at trial. So, in an effort to show reasonable doubt on top of the insanity plea, during trial, the defense also offered up that they didn't think he acted alone. Just saying that it's not possible that he acted alone. And the reason the defense said that was because they're saying, okay, he killed all of his family members. No one was drugged. No one got up. No one ran for their lives.
We don't know what happened, though. We weren't there. Now, when they asked, did they ask him, like, why are they all face down and no one moved?
Exactly. So that's the thing that at trial got really weird, because that's why the psychiatrist kind of believed that he was crazy, because there was no explanation for any of that. So, like, he didn't offer up any explanation. So the psychiatrist was kind of like, this guy doesn't even understand the extent of what happened. He has to be insane, which, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's iffy.
He's a kook, but insane could also mean a bad person, depending on the definition.
Well, insanity is only a legal term. It's not a psychiatric term. Like, a psychiatrist, only in legal proceedings will they use the term insanity. You can't walk into a mental institution and someone be diagnosed as insane. There's no diagnosis of insane. It's just a legal term to say that someone doesn't understand the crime they committed. And that was like their original defense. But then when he's on the stand, he starts talking about hearing these whispers and seeing this hooded figure, and starts saying, he did admit that he took a lot of drugs that night before he fell asleep while he was watching the movie. He was drugged up. And he does have a history of drugs. He was kind of known in the neighborhood to be a junkie who drank all the time and fought all the time. No one really liked him.
How old was he?
23.
First of all, get out. If you have an old kid, kick him out. You should not be 23 living with your mom. I mean, there are some exceptions, but not that many.
I know we have people listening who are probably like, I live with my mom and I'm 23.
Sorry.
You gotta go. I moved out of the house when I was 18.
My story is a little different.
Oh, no, I was like 18, almost 19. It was either 18 or 19.
I was like 17-ish.
Yeah.
My mom just left.
Well, yeah, you had a different situation.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Hey, Mom.
So, anyway, he was like, they tried to present this story of him being insane. And then they also tried to present this idea that there's no way, if he did kill his family, that he acted alone. I mean, they're trying to put reasonable doubt in the jury's minds. That's their job. They're defending their client.
Did he say there was someone else besides the black hoodie?
He didn't say that there was anyone else besides the black hooded person or thing or being, but it's the job of the defense to put this idea in the juror's head, because if you introduce reasonable doubt and the jurors have reasonable doubt, they're not supposed to convict you of a crime.
But they do. It doesn't matter. Nobody goes by those definitions.
Well, no.
They're like, he might not have done it, but guilty.
I understand what you're saying, but that's just the job of the defense.
It's just the verbiage they use, reasonable doubt.
Well, one thing that I find really interesting, and this is another part of the crime that I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to, is a DEA agent, came forward to police, and he said that he was surveilling this house for illegal drug activity that either was going on from Ronnie or his father. Okay, so he was monitoring the house the night of the murders. And this DEA agent told police that he saw Dawn DeFeo, who was Ronnie's sister, the 18-year-old sister, after at 3 or 4 in the morning, so after the murders might have occurred, he saw Dawn DeFeo leave the house with a black jacket on, throw the rifle in the back of her car, and drive it over to the waterfront where the gun was eventually found.
Oh, shit.
So one theory is that Ronnie and Dawn conspired together to kill their parents. And Dawn is the hooded figure, but Ronnie was all messed up because he was doing drugs. Let me finish. Hold on.
I'm never going to let you finish.
You're
ever.
never going to.
Because
let me finish my sentence.
No, I'm on the podcast too.
No, I know, but you got to let me finish to get the thought outs before you ask that question, because I'm about to tell you. So he saw this hooded figure, right? But he was really messed up on drugs. So the theory is they made this conspired plan to kill their parents. When he was too drugged up, she decided to go and shoot them, but she killed the whole family, the siblings as well, which made Ronnie DeFeo mad because he didn't want his brothers and sisters killed. He just hated his parents, and him and his father was abusive, and they fought all the time. So he didn't want his little siblings killed. So when she killed everybody, Ronnie got angry and went and killed her in a fit of rage.
Yeah, but she was face down too. So
she was face down, and yeah.
Just like how is everyone all face down is the question.
Yeah.
And especially if they weren't moved, like if they were face up, shot, and then rolled over,
exactly,
so they don't look at them or some stuff.
Exactly. So that's a theory that's out there that a lot of people think, but Ronnie doesn't. He maintains now that
he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's still in jail, and he maintains now that he was really drugged up. He woke up at 3:15 in the morning, grabbed a shotgun, and killed his family. And he doesn't say anything about his sister. This is all theories from other people's point of views who have studied the case and studied what happened. And now this DEA agent, his testimony about seeing this girl wearing a black jacket. So it's a lot of back and forth, but that's just a theory. And, who knows if it'll ever come out. I don't know.
He said how he did it. I wonder if he gave details of how he went from room to room and what did they move or...
Mm-mm. He says that he was so high and drunk, he just remembers doing it, and it all happened so fast, and he doesn't remember any other details.
Huh.
So it's very interesting. But despite this, and despite all of the trying to introduce reasonable doubt and all that, the jury found him guilty of all 6 murders and gave him 6 life sentences, and he's still in prison to this day.
I wonder if he's like a prison celebrity because he has all these movies and stuff.
Well, he doesn't have the movies. It's the Lutz family who moved in a year later who has all the movies.
So they seem fraudulent. I bet what I'm thinking is they didn't see anything. They knew these murders happened there, and they were probably like, hey, if we buy this house and act like it was crazy, we can write a book and be rich, because they had a best-selling book.
Well, they didn't have a best-selling book. Let me tell you the story of the Lutz family. I'll tell you everything that I know about this whole situation, and then we'll see if your opinion changes.
Well, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts.
I know you don't believe in all of this. It's so frustrating. I know there's people listening who are skeptics as well, who don't believe in any paranormal anything or whatever. But I think it's crazy. How do you not believe that there is a spiritual realm? How do you not believe that?
Oh, it's so easy to not believe in ghosts. You know why?
But what do you believe happens to people's souls when they die? Do you think we just die? Are you an atheist? Do you believe in absolutely nothing, no afterlife? Maybe you don't believe...
It doesn't matter what you believe. If you believe it, it doesn't mean it's real because no one ever knows. So you can believe whatever you want. That doesn't mean it's real.
But do you believe that...
And why were you doing this? This is a whole nother podcast.
No, but I'm just... No, it's not a whole nother podcast because we're about to talk about paranormal things and I can't wrap my brain around...
Have you ever seen a ghost?
Anybody. No, but I've had weird situations happen to me that are unexplainable. I lived in a haunted house. Well, my family and I, we just had a couple things that happened. We can't understand how they happened in this house in Florida. A fire randomly started in the fireplace when my mom was asleep. And, a couple times locks were turned when you go to the bathroom, and then a door would lock and we don't remember locking it. Like weird things like that.
Bad memories.
My dad heard like banging one night, and he made me and my brother go sit in the car while he went around the house looking for where this banging came from. And it was just weird. And 2 people died that lived in that house, and we just never understood where these weird things happen. But it wasn't like a malevolent spirit or evil or anything like that. It was just weird coincidences, and I'm sure that a lot of people have those experiences. You've just never experienced.
And I don't believe any of you.
You know, I know. You don't believe anything.
Whoever has those experiences, I don't believe you.
You don't believe anything? Like anything could happen paranormal?
I have to see it.
All right. Well, let me tell you what happened to the Lutz family, and we'll see if you think that they were just in it for a deal.
All right, so Jess is going to tell you what didn't happen to the Lutz family right now that people say happens.
Okay. So about a year later, 13 months later after this crime happened, right? They cleaned up the house and they decided to sell the house. But they obviously had to sell it for an extremely low price because no one's buying this house. It was very, people knew all about it in New York. So they ended up selling it to the Lutz family for $80,000. And just to give you some perspective, this house is a 6-bedroom, very large house with an in-ground pool, a garage in the back, and it's on the water. And it has like a nice long pier that goes out with like a boat slip. So it wasn't an $80,000 house.
But I don't know how much houses were back then.
No, but everyone says that compared to the rest of the houses in the neighborhood, it was very discounted.
Okay.
Just to give you some perspective, it sold last year, March of 2017. Not last year, 2 years ago, March of 2017, for $605,000.
See, now, I don't believe in ghost, but I wouldn't buy that house either, because just in case,
like, you don't want to have that negative energy in there.
Yeah, like, all right, there aren't ghosts, but if they really are there, I'm good. I'm not going there.
That's true. So the Lutz family claimed that they didn't know about these murders, okay? They claim they didn't know about it, but they claim that once, the real estate agent had to tell them why this was so discounted, because they asked, like, why is this house going for so cheap? And then when they decided to buy it is when they found out about the murders. That's what they say. Kathy and her 3 children, their new stepfather, George Lutz, and their dog, Harry, all moved in to 112 Ocean Avenue.
Harry the dog.
Yeah. I know. It's a cute name for a dog. On December of 1975. According to a reporter who knew the family...
Wait, wasn't last show 1975 too?
It was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look at that memory.
It happened in Connecticut, 1975.
All right, good for me.
Yeah, you remembered. You usually have a bad memory, so that was good.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
So according to a reporter who knew the family very well, they didn't want any fame through this whole story. This reporter, she ended up being close to the family after spending so much time investigating their story. And she said that they are legitimately scared to death of this house. They are scared of all of their experiences that happened there. And she referred them to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who came and also investigated and exorcised the house. And Ed and Lorraine Warren are the couple, the paranormal investigative couple that did the Annabelle case, and the Conjuring, the movie The Conjuring was based on their case where they investigated that house in Connecticut, I think it was.
I think I'm going to be a paranormal investigator because you just get to make stuff up and no one could say if you're right or wrong because nobody could see it.
You're so annoying that you don't believe
like
anything.
Right now, I could tell everyone listening to this podcast, holy crap, my phone is floating. And there'll be some idiots that believe it. Okay, well, just listen to the rest of the story and see how you feel at the end, if you still don't believe them. Okay? No, I'm not going to, but go ahead.
So I got a lot of my info on this part of the story from a documentary that Danny Lutz, who was the oldest son, he didn't speak about this for 30 years. And then in 2018, he decided to do a documentary called My Amityville Horror.
He probably needed some cash. He's like,
I will say that watching this documentary, he is not an easy person to like. He's like a little overly aggressive, very defensive about everything because he says that, he spent his entire life people doubting his story, so it makes him really defensive. He's also he's a guy who's lived in Queens for a really long time. He lives in Whitestone, Queens.
We could see Whitestone from our window.
Yeah. He has that like construction worker, very abrasive New Yorker vibe about him. And then on top of that, he was very affected by everything that happened in this house to the point where he's been in lifelong therapy. He's been in therapy his entire life since this stuff happened to him at this house. And he's been not believed by a lot of people, so it makes him really defensive. So I will say, if you are going to watch the documentary, just know he's not an easy person to watch or like.
Damn, dude.
He says that he is still haunted to this day, and that he, like I said, he's been in lifelong therapy, like dealing with all of these experiences.
So ghosts still bother him?
The memories of the stuff he saw still
bothers
him.
Memories? You're not really haunted, fool.
No, haunted, like, as in by the memories of what happened.
Like you were soft
him.
And you couldn't take.
He was 10. Of course he was soft. He was a 10-year-old boy. He was scared to death. So the Lutz family moved into this house mid-December 1975. And from the day they moved in, they started experiencing some really bizarre things. So the first day that they were there, a friend of the family said, this house has this history. You should call a priest and get this house blessed.
See, right? If no one would have told them that, I bet nothing would have happened.
Well, the priest from a local parish came over to bless the house and abruptly left. And like he was walking from room to room blessing the house, and then he just left. And the family's like, where did the priest go? So when they were looking around the house to try to find him, the family went up to one of the bedrooms that the priest was apparently in, and they saw 400 to 500 flies, like infested with flies, this room, okay? And it's kind of weird because it is December, and there's usually not an infestation of flies in the middle of winter.
That's true. There aren't no bugs.
Yeah, usually it's like summertime or spring that you get a lot of bugs. So the family, the boy Danny Lutz, he started killing all these flies, swatting them with a magazine, and there were like all these fly carcasses everywhere. The family left the room. They came back, and there were no fly carcasses.
Kooks.
There was no dead flies anywhere.
You don't say.
So they started thinking, like, did we see this? Did this really happen? They started questioning their own mind state. So
I already diagnosed this whole case.
The family had legal action brought against them by people claiming that it was all a hoax. So there was an angry family. The family that moved in after them got really angry because after they moved into the house is when the movie came out and the book came out, and then they started getting all these gawkers.
Everyone coming to the house.
Yeah, everyone started driving by, looking in the windows. Media would show up all the time, and this family got really angry, and they sued the Lutz family, saying that it's like their house became a circus after this movie. So during the legal...
They should have charged admission and made some money.
That's what I was thinking, to be honest. I was like, maybe they could have made a lot of money off of that. They could have like charged, especially at Halloween time.
Well, they could have wrote a story too, like it's still going on.
Yeah, like they could have made it a haunted house. I don't know.
If anyone's selling a haunted house, hit me up. We're going to make some fake books. People believe anything.
Now, during the legal proceedings of the, the court case when they sued the family, the priest that blessed the house and left abruptly, he did testify for the family, and he said that what he experienced that day was he kept feeling all of these cold spots, and then he walked into one of the bedrooms and was praying, and while he was praying, he felt something slap him in the face, and there was nothing there, and then he heard a voice say, "Get out," very loud and deep, and so he abruptly left because he got scared. He got really afraid. Interestingly, after this, like, George started waking up every single morning at 3:15 a.m. He said for the whole 28 days that he lived there, he would wake up at 3:15 a.m. And that's the time
that the family was supposedly killed.
Yes, that Ronnie DeFeo woke up and killed his family. Also, the entire family started having emotional changes. Everyone was very angry, especially Danny Lutz and his stepfather, George. They would argue all the time. They were very aggressive with each other, and they were short-fused. Everything would make them mad. And this isn't how they were before they moved in. But this experience really made them on edge. One thing that the wife said, Kathy, she said that she didn't necessarily feel angry, but she felt like she never wanted to leave the house, like not even to do errands or go to grocery store. And she said that she didn't feel like that where they lived before, and she didn't feel like that after. But for the 28 days that she was in that house, she felt like she couldn't physically leave.
That's crazy.
It took everything inside of her to leave the house.
You know why that's crazy?
Why?
That I think our house might be haunted because I never want to leave. When it's time to go to work, nope. When it's time to go to the store, grocery shopping with you, nope. Nothing.
So
I never want to leave.
You're so annoying.
This house is crazy.
I'm just telling you what they experienced only for the 28 days in this house, but never anywhere else.
I've always lived in a haunted house. I never want to go out.
So the dog Harry would bark all the time, and he tried to escape the yard on many occasions, and he never acted like that before either. One night, the garage door kept opening and closing by itself, opening and closing, opening and closing. And Harry was in the backyard near the garage, and he was going crazy, barking, and trying to leave the yard. He jumped over the fence and his leash got caught and he was hanging on the fence,
poor Harry.
hanging himself. Yeah. So George and Danny saw this and they ran out to help the dog and also ran out to put the garage door back down because it kept opening. So when they went out there, they got the dog, they saved him. He didn't die, but he was flipping out. And then Danny says that he looked up at his sister's bedroom window, and him and his stepfather say that they saw a pig with red eyes staring at them through the window.
Damn, they think his sister looks like a pig?
No, they saw this pig, so they ran up to the sister's bedroom. There was no one in there, no pig and no sister. And her rocking chair that was in her bedroom was sitting in the middle of the floor, rocking back and forth. And George, the stepfather, walked up. He grabbed the chair. He looked at it like he was trying to figure out, why is this chair rocking by itself? Couldn't figure it out, obviously. And another thing that was weird was their little sister, Missy. She had an imaginary friend named Jody. And Jody she described her as a little pig. And she drew pictures of her. She was a little piggy named Jody. Sometimes she would be a pig. Sometimes she would be a little girl. And this was her imaginary friend that she never had, but she said she met her in the house.
I think if your kid has an imaginary friend, you should give the kid up for adoption.
I had an imaginary friend.
Well, you were crazy.
No, her name was Girl Biddy, and she was my imaginary friend. And one of my friends at daycare gave her to me.
See?
And she used to sit in my hands, and I used to talk to her while she sat in my hands.
Both the other kid's parent and your parent needed new kids.
You're so stupid. Shut up.
Bring them right back to the hospital. I don't want this one.
A lot of kids have imaginary friends.
Those are the crazy ones.
No,
and you still believe in ghosts.
I do. I believe in ghosts. And I had an imaginary friend. So
damaged goods.
They would. What does that even mean?
You crazy.
I'm not crazy. A lot of kids have imaginary friends. Ask people who have little kids who are like 3 and 4. Little kids that age are really imaginative.
Where do they even get the idea for imaginary friends? Just pops in their head?
I don't know. My friend from daycare gave me my imaginary friend, so I got the idea from her. She had one named Girl Biddy and Boy Biddy, and she decided to give me Girl Biddy.
I bet kids nowadays don't have imaginary friends. They just have iPads.
That's probably true. Back then, we had to entertain ourselves back in the day. So Missy had this imaginary friend. Her name was Jody, and she never had her before. She said she met her in the house. Other weird things that would happen was they felt things touch their hands all the time. and Danny and his brother would levitate. Danny was even thrown up a flight of stairs.
Oh my goodness.
And this is something that both parents saw happen. He was arguing with his stepfather, and in the middle of the argument, he ran up to one, because the stairs was like a circular staircase in the middle, and he ran up one flight, and then the second flight up, while he was yelling, him and his stepfather were yelling at each other, he lifted off the ground and was thrown up one flight of stairs and banged into the wall. Okay?
I don't believe it. It's a little spooky if it was real, but...
So then one day, another weird thing that happened was Danny was looking out of his sister's window, and he had his hands on the windowsill, and he was like looking out the window with his hands on the windowsill. The window came crashing down on his hands and crushed them. And his hands were like mangled and started swelling up. So he ran down to his mom, and she, grabbed ice, and they were starting to ice it, and she was going to take him to the hospital. And then all of a sudden they looked down, and his hands were totally fine.
See,
and this is something that his mother said.
If this stuff really happened, like if someone flew in the air, wouldn't that be enough to leave?
Well, they bought this house for $80,000. His wife didn't work. George ran his own business. He ran a surveying business out of the basement. That was his office. I don't think they felt like they had the means to leave. Where were they going to go? So at the time, they were just dealing with this weird, crazy stuff because they probably they felt trapped. They just bought this house. I mean, this is only a matter of 28 days. So we're talking like 10, 12, 15 days in. They're seeing all these crazy things happen. So one day, this is the last thing that happened. This was the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say, and they decided to leave after this. Danny and his brother went up to bed. They were lying in bed, and they shared a bedroom, and their beds faced each other. So they were lying in bed, and all of a sudden, their bed started rocking. The door started slamming, and they started hearing screaming, okay? The parents, George and Kathy, run up to the boys' room, and they see the boys flying up in the air. Up and down, bouncing, flying up in the air. So George runs and calls the priest that was at the house before, that blessed the house. And he says, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do? How do I stop this? And the priest said, that house is evil. I can't even believe you guys are still staying there, and dealing with all this. And that put the idea in George's head, like, we have to leave or somebody's going to get hurt. Something really bad is going to happen. So the family ran, they jumped in the car, they left, and they never came back.
I feel like I remember all this from a movie.
Maybe you saw Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
So they ran, they got in the car, they never came back. All their possessions stayed in the house.
Oh, they didn't take their stuff.
They didn't take anything.
But they were hard up for money. At least get your stuff.
Nope, they didn't take their stuff. They didn't want to have anything to do with that house. To the extent that they moved across the country to California because they wanted to get so far away from this house. They drove all the way to California like a week later and never came back to New York.
And did they have hauntings after that?
No, they didn't have hauntings. So they ended up hiring Ed and Lorraine Warren and a bunch of other psychics and paranormal investigators. They decided to hire them to come in the house because they wanted their experience validated, and they wanted to see what it was that was haunting this house.
These are kook take advantagers of...
No, they're people. Psychics and paranormal investigators.
They take advantage of the kooks.
Well, Ed and Lorraine Warren are world-renowned paranormal investigators who have investigated multiple hauntings and have a whole business and a life built on this.
Jeez, I got to get down with this.
Hey,
if anybody has a haunting, hit me up. I'll investigate it for you.
And so full of crap.
We'll write about it. And we'll do a movie.
So Ed and Lorraine Warren, up until the day they died, said that this was one of the most evil houses they've ever been in.
Except for the people that live there after them.
Lorraine Warren said that to this day, she died recently, but up until she died, she said that it's one of the scariest places she's ever been, that she felt like she was in actual hell, that she felt evil, that she was having, while she was walking through the house, she was having visions of bodies everywhere, dead bodies everywhere. And other people corroborated this. This was all filmed. They filmed this entire investigation. There were multiple psychics there. A news station actually did the story. No one flied, but a lot of really weird things happened to these people. Number one of the cameramen, who was actually a skeptic, who didn't believe any of it.
This was in the movie too.
This wasn't in the movie.
No, I think like something happened to the cameraman.
You're thinking...
There's multiple Amityvilles and all that.
No, you're thinking of Poltergeist.
Oh.
You're thinking of the movie Poltergeist, because we watched it a couple months ago, and they had cameramen and stuff there, and things were happening to them. So it's a totally different movie.
Okay.
So one of the cameramen, who was actually a skeptic, he's never had a heart condition, never had any issues with his heart. He was very healthy. As he was walking up the stairs, he got massive chest pains. He keeled over. He had to put his camera down, and his heart was pounding. He was having palpitations and really bad chest pains.
That's just a coincidence, because tons of people don't know they have anything wrong with their heart, and all of a sudden they have a heart attack. So that's shenanigans.
Other people during this investigation, for the multiple days they were there, all of them said that they felt cold spots all over the house.
Guess what?
They said that they...
Our second bedroom is a little bit colder than the rest of the house. It is,
because it's not insulated good.
I don't know.
But
I never want to leave here.
Cold spots. They're talking about like a spot in a room that's cold, not a room that's cold, like a spot within the room. They also, a lot of the psychics heard voices, saw visions. And now there is one thing that you might actually believe, because they got it on camera.
Did they call Ghostbusters?
They got it on camera. They had a camera set up in this hallway, which apparently a lot of activity happened. It was the same hallway that the boys' rooms were in. And they kept just snapping photos throughout the night. Every 10 minutes it would snap a photo, snap a photo, snap a photo. One of the photos that it snapped, you see a little boy looking peering out the doorway with these glowing white eyes. Okay, you literally see him. There were no children there. It was a bunch of older people, investigative people, like psychics and stuff. No kids were there. So how do you explain that?
Photoshop?
They didn't have Photoshop back then. This was in the 70s. This all happened a month after.
Is it very clear, or is it like...
Very clear. I'm going to post it on Wife Crime Instagram, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes, and I want you to see.
It's fake.
It's not fake. It's a real picture.
There's only ghosts for people that are dumb.
Whatever. Well, so Danny Lutz, in this documentary that I watched, he really hates his stepfather. Hated his stepfather. Even to the point where when his stepfather died in 2010 or something, he says on camera in this documentary, thank God that asshole's dead. He hated this guy.
At least you stayed real the whole time.
He hated him the whole time. He said he had a terrible feeling about him from the moment he met him. And one of the theories was that George Lutz was into a lot of weird stuff. Danny said that when he went to his house for the first time, he looked on his bookshelf and he had lots of books about witchcraft and devil worship and cult kind of stuff. And Danny believed that since George was into this witchcraft and everything, that he kind of opened this doorway for the family to have this supernatural experience.
I'm getting a little chilly right now, and I'm getting scared.
Shut up, Russ. And other psychics...
My legs are cold.
Other psychics, they agree with it. They say that it's kind of a perfect storm. You have uneasy spirits in this house, and you have somebody who's open to witchcraft and the dark side of things. And it's very possible that these spirits caught on to that and didn't haunt the house, but haunted the family.
Sure.
Because other families that have lived there didn't have these experiences.
Yeah, and now they got a nice house on the water, and they're chilling.
It is a nice house. It's really nice. So another theory was that this was all fake, which I'm sure is the theory that you believe. Some people believe that they lied as a scheme to make money, like you said in the beginning, to get rich and famous, and that because they were in like money trouble. You know, he ran a business, but he was the only one that worked.
And obviously, good writers, they write stuff kids. Now.
They didn't write the story. I just told you. They didn't write the story. The book was written by someone else. It wasn't them.
You know, I heard of something that, like, in houses or something, there was, like, gas leaks, and gas leaks could cause how you say that? Hallucinations. And that can be possible as well.
It could be. I didn't know gas leaks could cause hallucination.
I believe so. If I'm wrong, but I'm probably not, so just run with that.
All right. I mean, that's an interesting theory. But
profiled. Done.
After I don't buy it. I don't buy this whole they just did it to get famous thing. And this is why I have a few
Well, you
reasons.
believe everything.
I don't believe everything, but I do believe that they did experience some paranormal stuff. And this is why I don't buy that theory. Number one, they were only there for 28 days. Okay? They bought this house. Yes, this was 1975, but you still had...
Here it is.
What?
Well, I'm proving that this whole thing was a hoax. So carbon monoxide poisoning is when you have gas leaking into your home.
Well, you have carbon monoxide leaking.
And the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning include pressure on your chest. Oh, snap. His pressure on his chest. Auditory hallucinations. Whoosh. I don't know what that means. And unexplained feelings of dread. Welcome to Con Ed's haunting.
Except that when you have carbon monoxide poisoning, your entire body turns very red, your skin turns very red, and you end up at a hospital or you die. Because I've had patients in my ER with carbon monoxide poisoning. They come in, yes, they are flipping out. Yes, they are sometimes acting a little nutty. Their skin is bright red, and if you just live with carbon monoxide poisoning, you're going to die because your body can't live breathing that type of air.
Yeah, so they left.
They would have died.
28 days.
And they would have not only died, but they all would have had other symptoms, like bright red skin. When I say red skin, I mean like your skin turns red.
Like when you get sunburned.
And you act nuts, but you like act completely insane. Like your body is very twitchy. You're acting very nutty.
What don't you believe?
I don't believe a lot of things, but I do believe in paranormal activity.
All right.
So this is why I don't buy that this was fake. Number one, like I said, they were only there for 28 days. And they weren't in that much financial trouble because they just bought an $80,000 house. And yes, I know that this is 1975, but you still needed, A, to have some type of down payment. B, still needed to prove that you made money to pay your mortgage.
They could have gave all the money they had to do it.
But 28 days, they didn't even have their first mortgage payment yet before they left the house. They weren't in financial trouble, okay? Number two, they only spoke publicly about this story after someone else spoke publicly about it, and they didn't want the story to be convoluted or messed up. So they weren't going to come forward and do any publicity, but this paranormal person that they called, that they wanted to do an investigation on the house, put a statement out to the media about it. And that's when they came out and did a press conference because they didn't want this, the story to be different than what actually happened.
The media person was in on it too.
Number three, the whole family speaks about the incidences that occurred with like actual fear and real conviction. Like if you look up
crazy people believe stuff. How many people come?
It can't be a whole family of people.
Yeah, it's hereditary.
I'm sorry, but
how many people come to your job thinking they're Jesus?
I mean, a lot of people, but not an entire family.
It could be a family of Jesuses.
Come on, Russ.
You're
telling me you honestly don't believe, not even for a second, maybe not believe it, but you don't for a second think, man, if that was true, that would be weird.
Yes, if it was true, it would be really weird.
What would make you think it was true? You'd have to physically be haunted yourself? You don't believe anything unless it happens to you?
Someone got to float.
I can't with you.
If anyone could fly, hit me up. No, I got to stop telling people to hit me up. Don't anyone hit me up. But if you float by me, I'll believe it.
All right. Now, this is the only thing that happened, in my opinion, that seems a little fishy, but it ain't even that fishy. But of course, you're going to take it and run with it and say it's fishy. The Lutz were contacted by Ronnie DeFeo's defense attorney, okay? When this all first broke and they started talking, they did a press conference, and he was appealing Ronnie DeFeo's conviction at the time. And the attorney ended up getting a book deal. And he contacted the family about their story because he got this book deal. And they talked to the author, Jay Anson, who ended up writing the book, Amityville Horror. And the attorney got money for it, obviously probably paid the family out. And that's what made people believe that this was all a hoax for money. But they didn't end up making a whole lot of money off of this. I mean, they made a little, but they didn't make enough to be rich. I think they made like $200,000.
Back then, that was a lot of money.
But it wasn't
like $1 million,
enough
probably.
to be like filthy rich. And then move to California, uproot your entire life, move to California. Then they ended up getting a divorce.
But you know what?
George and Kathy got a divorce.
That has nothing to do with ghost.
But I'm just saying, like,
people get divorced every day, B.
So, numerous paranormal psychologists, psychics, investigators, and reporters have been to the house, and they all feel uneasy about it.
Yeah, because they heard these stories,
and that's where I'm
and they believe in this kind of stuff. So you're gonna feel uneasy if you believe in it.
Okay. Well, I believe it. I don't necessarily. Obviously, I don't believe that it's how Hollywood portrayed it. If we were to watch the movie right now, it's not. You know, there's a lot of other details in the movie that have nothing to do with the actual story. But I believe that they did experience some paranormal stuff, and I believe that there were some uneasy spirits there.
Sure.
And that's what I believe. And there's nothing you can say to convince me.
And that goes the other way around as well.
I'm curious what our fans think.
Mother suckers weren't floating.
I'm curious if people believe this story or they're like you and they think it's all fake.
I wonder if like they were moonwalking through the air. What kind of floating?
Oh,
or like Superman flying?
How are we so opposite in everything we think? We're literally polar opposites.
Yeah, because one of us think logically and one of us believe everything.
Oh, so
I guess that's how we end up together. You just believe everything I tell you.
You're so annoying. So that's the case of Amityville Horror. So now if you watch it this week for Halloween, you know the real story behind the Amityville Horror House.
It's a cool story. And maybe
It's sad. I mean, the murder was sad. I can't
the
believe
murder's
he murdered
that's
his
nuts.
entire family. That's nuts.
Yeah, and like how they were...
maybe his father justifiable because he was abusive, but
Yeah, you could shoot him.
But his siblings, that's sad.
I approve of the father shooting.
I don't approve of killing anyone. You shouldn't either, especially on a public podcast. But
I don't have no say.
But I think that I could understand why someone would want to kill an abusive parent, but not their siblings. I mean, they didn't do anything. They were innocent little kids.
Yep.
It's sad. All right. Well, everyone have a good week. Check us out on Wife of Crime Pod on Instagram. I'm going to post that picture with the little boy ghost in it.
And maybe share the podcast with people on like Instagram or something. And shout out to Kelly. She shared our podcast recently.
A couple people have shared it.
Appreciate that.
Actually, we've had a lot of people share it. Kelly, Rosetta, Christine, Anna. I can name a lot of people who listen all the time.
Oh, and the girl we met, Krista, at the bar. She was really cool.
Krista,
she really liked it.
She shares it too. My friend Addie shares it. She tells everybody. So a lot of our friends are doing it. So if more people shared, it would be cool.
So it seems like if you share the podcast, we'll say your name on the podcast.
Yes, we'll give you a shout out.
She just said everyone.
It's true. All right, everyone. Have a great week. See you later.
Peace.